Good evening. I now call the Morrisville Town Council work session to order for July 30th, 2026. First, I'd like to recognize the town manager for a request for an additional closed session.
Thank you, Mayor. You have one closed session on the agenda tonight for a matter involving a contract or lease. I'd like to add a second brief closed session related to a personnel matter.
Okay. Do I just need head nods for that, since we don't really adopt an agenda? Or should we
That's
adopt?
appropriate.
Okay. Is everyone okay with that? Go ahead and add that. Okay. Seeing head nods all around. We have two discussion items this evening. At first, we would like to recognize Brittany Johnson, our planning manager, to help us with a public art update, the ICON initiative. We're very excited to talk about this tonight. Thank you, Brittany.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. It is my pleasure to be here as well. Super excited about this item that we're taking a very major step forward. We're here to select our final ICON installation locations and also select design. So before we get into those two tasks, first we'll have a little bit of background. So on January 28th, Town Council selected the ICON initiative as their second initiative to our public art program. On May 27th, an administrative update was shared with Council outlining the proposed project timeline, as well as public engagement strategies and artist selection. On November 25th, staff presented the top 3 icons that were derived from public engagement efforts, and the butterfly was selected as our official icon. On February 26th, Town Council selected design details. On May 26th, an administrative update was shared with Council, and the 3D draft was approved. On May 27th, 2026, staff presented the location options to the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources Advisory Committee, and locations were prioritized. And lastly, on July 22nd, staff presented design submissions to the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources Advisory Committee, and the top 10 design selections were prioritized as well. So here, if you look closely, this is a rough version of our final icon. So you'll see that the edging hasn't been removed here, but that is super exciting. With the final size, it is about 4 feet 2 inches in height and 3 feet 9 inches in width. Just to briefly review our ICON initiative flowchart, step 1 was public engagement. We introduced the project and solicited feedback at 4 in-person events and also online. Step 2 was our ICON fabrication. The icon was selected, design details were finalized, and the manufacturer was selected as well, and a contract was executed. Step 3 was location prioritization. An online call for artists was issued, and the Parks, Recs, and Cultural Resources Advisory Committee did prioritize locations, and now here for Council to consider. Step 4, which is our current step, is our ICON installation, and that will entail, again, final design selection and installation location selection. And lastly, site preparation and installation. Our 5th and final step, we will review and evaluate our process. So, again, your task for tonight first will be your final location selection, followed by design selection. So first, we'll have the location selection. On May 27th, Parks and Recs did review a list of town properties, and the total list is here listed for you, which consists of Morrisville Community Park, MAFC, Cedar Fork District Park, Indian Creek Trailhead, the Morrisville Dog Park, Northwest Park as an alternative, fire station at Harris Mill, Church Street Park, Town Center when completed, and Town Hall as well. So the Parks and Recs Advisory Committee did select 5 locations and also selected 1 alternate. So you'll see those 5 here with an asterisk, and I'll read those again. That's Morrisville Community Park, MAFC, Cedar Fork District Park, Indian Creek Trailhead, the Morrisville Dog Park, and again, Northwest Park as an alternative. So multiple factors were considered when selecting these locations and areas within these locations. First, existing features like lighting, hardscape, and its overall visibility, as well reviewing each for how well they will again be interfaced by the public in a pedestrian way. So I will go over all of the locations and then we'll open for discussion. So the first is Morrisville Community Park. There were 2 areas identified. So you'll see the overall park here. One location, there is an area that is directly adjacent to the playground and the picnic shelter, and then another that is by the restroom structure that is further into the park. So those are 2 areas that have been identified for possible installation. The second location is MASC. You'll see here that it is adjacent, so in the larger aerial here, it's about this location. It's adjacent to the current Smart Shuttle node. Third is Cedar Fork District Park, and there were 2. Again, there is a location where I think it's 3 or 2 or 3 greenways that converge at one point, and it's really a really nice area. I don't know if you've been back there, but certainly could make that area even more special. Next, we have Indian Creek Trailhead, which is adjacent to Lake Morrisville, our stormwater facility here, as well as high visibility from Town Hall Drive. It is separated from the playground, which will help discourage those that may think that it is designed to be played upon. Next, we have Morrisville Dog Park, and there are 2 prime locations for our installation. And again, we would be selecting one of the areas. So in the aerial, you'll see here, both of them are directly outside of the play area. And there's one, this one is a little closer to the gate, and this one is a little further away and closer to the parking area. And lastly, as an alternative, Northwest Park was selected. And if this location is selected, the area of installation would be here, which is right where the picnic shelter is here, playground, and also the walking trail. Now that we have reviewed all 5 of the locations, our first question here is council comfortable with the 5 locations that have been prioritized by Parks and Recs? And I will open up for discussion before we move on to design selection.
Do you want me to help you or you want to do it yourself?
I'll go ahead and do it myself. So I'm going to go back to the slide where we are showing all of the locations listed so you can see them together. Again, the asterisk is a little small, but hopefully you can see that. These are the 5 locations that have been prioritized, and Northwest Park is our alternate. So I guess we will start.
Well, thank you very much for bringing this next milestone to us for consideration. I have a basic question about how the installation location suggestions were presented to the Park and Recs Committee. Did they spontaneously offer locations, or were they given a specific list to select and prioritize?
Yes, they were given this full list here that's present on the screen, and then they selected the 5 that have the asterisks.
Okay, well, thank you for that detail. I actually think that we're missing an opportunity for a location that is not on this list, and I think that there are several of our greenways that have kind of a melding together where you can go multiple directions in town. I am terrible with names, but there's one that connects the Cedar Fork Trailway system. It's kind of like there's an intersection that'll go towards Preston, and then it'll also go. It's you know, it's a Hatcher Creek Greenway. Having an icon there gives a sense of place, and it's an unexpected surprise kind of thing. versus the Morrisville Aquatics and Fitness Center, and I'm not in favor of that, by the way. We already have a mural, so we're trying to use the icons to expand the impact of art in our town. And if we put two of our art installations at Morrisville Aquatic Center, we're not really expanding. We're more or less cluttering. And I don't feel, I think we really need to embrace the murals and let them stand on their own and not have have something novel in another location. So I would want to see some areas of the greenway system that are intersection, kind of bringing us together, because we always say, live connected, live well. The icons could do something like that, connecting the town. So I'd like to maybe suggest we look at 3 sites tonight and hold on the last 2 till we revisit the locations again. And, because I think that, you know, in the dog park, I'm not a real fan of putting something at the dog park right now, because I think, again, that is pretty close to one of the murals, which is the fire station. I want to have more bringing in. So community park, I can see that. Cedar Fork District Park, but maybe that District Park location is not at the park itself, but it's at the greenway adjacent to the park where there's intersections of greenway trails. So that's just a different way of thinking about the Cedar Fork District Park. And Indian Creek Trailhead is good. I will give you a little preview. I am not in favor of putting an icon at the town center, because we just went through an extensive branding kind of thing. We want to create a certain vibe. So we can integrate the butterfly into the town center without having an icon there. It's like we have all these icons around the town, and then in the town center, we have a different way of presenting and integrating the butterfly, like you were suggesting. So that way we can even expand that art experience a little bit further and get more for our money. So that's my feedback on location. Thank you.
Where are the 3 murals?
So the 3 murals currently reside at Shiloh Park, Fire Admin, which is here at the corner, and then MAFC.
So I would, the same thing that Vicki raised, Councilmember Scroggins raised about the Cedar Fork District Park, I have the same thought about the Morrisville Community Park. I'd love to have a butterfly there, but right behind the playground, there's a place where 3 trails converge, and that gets tons of foot traffic and bike traffic, and I mean, I've never been there that it hasn't been super crowded. So I think that would be a better location than the location proposed, because that location is so close to the playground that I worry that there's just going to be kids climbing on all the time. So, and the dog park, I wonder if the people that think we should have a butterfly there have never owned a dog, because my concern there would be that the paint would be urinated off the butterfly. I mean, within, I don't know, my dog would probably do it by himself in a couple months, so I'm not in favor of the dog park. And I'm not in favor of Morrisville Aquatics and Fitness Center. But I do think it'd be nice to have one at Town Hall. I actually think having one right out there would be really nice. The only thing is, I mean, we can't just have 5 butterflies and stop. Like, we're gonna have to do another round of butterflies, because 5 butterflies in a 10 square mile town is not a lot of butterflies. So, you know, but for the first locations, that would be my feedback, would be I'd like the community park one to be in that greenway intersection. I agree with Councilmember Scroggins Johnson about the Cedar Fork District Park one. And I'd like to see one at Town Hall. I don't think Church Street Park needs one, and I agree that we don't need one at the town center.
Who's that?
So I agree with both Mayor Pro Tem and Councilmember Scroggins Johnson on trails. I would like to see one there. Now, did you both say that you are in favor of or not in favor of one at town center?
I wasn't an icon like this, not in town center. We can still use the, visual of a butterfly in different ways.
Okay.
And we have a whole scape of the spritzers and stuff like that. I'm just concerned it'll be too much.
Yeah, I agree with you. I just wasn't sure whether you
And
feel.
also, I think that if the town center, I'm sorry, if the town center's built and then we have a space that's just crying out for something, I say we get it with the second round of butterflies. Like, I want these installed as soon as possible.
So I would be in favor of one, at least one at one of the trails, and then one at Town Hall, instead of the dog park. Dog park definitely, yeah, I agree with you. That doesn't sound right. And also the aquatic center, if they already have mural done.
I'm sorry, what's the last location?
The Morrisville Aquatic Center and dog park, not in favor of those two.
And you did say Morrisville Community Park, Town Hall, and what was the third? I think it was
No,
Cedar.
two.
Two.
What was the trail that you mentioned? Cedar Fork District, yeah, so there, and Town Hall, two.
Just as a point, the Cedar Fork is at an intersection of trails. Just for our knowledge.
So I'd like to echo what I was, had mentioned at the Tuesday meeting. And I'll get onto the location in a second, but certainly finding those locations where if the butterflies are actually pointing towards town center, that would be really nice. One thing I'm noticing with the list so far, all the asterisk ones, minus Northwest Park, is that they're pretty much all along, kind of this center belt of town. So I would be interested in certainly getting more vertical distance between them as opposed to having them on, I guess, Morrisville's equator, essentially. But I do like, well, actually, one question. What would happen if kids climbed on them?
So they are built to withstand some pressure. However, we will have signs that are posted. So they are durable, but we just don't want, for a child to kind of hang on them, complete body weight, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I remember seeing one of the pictures had that brick kind of seating around it, and then the putting it right in the middle of that. And I was thinking, I don't think that's a good idea, having people hanging out there. But I do, I like the crossroads. I like, I think where the Cedar Fork District Park, I do like that location. I do like Morrisville Community Park. I do like Northwest Park. I think there's nothing, no art up there now, and that's pretty far away from, where all the action is. I'm not in favor of Morrisville Aquatics and Fitness Center. A couple of reasons. I think the way it would be placed wouldn't point towards town center, I'm sure. But also I think, yes, with the other mural that's there. I was thinking, oh, the dog park would work because you could point it towards town center, but I agree with the rest of my colleagues here about one being too close to the fire admin as well as being around dogs. That might not be such a great idea. I like Indian Creek Trailhead. With that one, that was kind of like, it's not necessarily pointing to the town green, but it's pointing to, what the future town center is going to be. Certainly if it's, kind of dead centered
on the pad there. I think that's a good location. Would Indian Creek Trailhead be too close to Town Hall to have one? I don't know. Certainly, if the Indian Creek Trailhead, I'm assuming, would probably last longer because the Town Hall area, as the town center redevelops, will be a little bit different in the future, I'm sure. So just thinking about that, but I think that's 5, right? I like Morrisville Community Park, I like Cedar Fork District Park, or the trailhead, or the where trails meet. Indian Creek Trailhead, I like that. I like Northwest Park. I guess I don't have a 5th one for you.
Sounds good.
How about the library?
That's town center.
Yeah, books need to be repeated.
Right. You ready for me?
I am.
Okay. So I'm on the same wavelength. I don't want it at the dog park or the aquatics and fitness center because there's already art mural that's in close proximity, especially at aquatics and fitness center. So I'd like to, this idea of spreading it out across town, I like that. I honestly would put them all on a greenway somewhere. I would put them at those intersections. I'm looking at the greenway map, trying to figure out 5 locations, but I would put them where Ann talked about, where, you know, if you're gonna put it in Morrisville Community Park, I'd put it back at that intersection where you come behind Georgina's, that intersection of the greenway there. You're right, there are tons of people that walk by there all the time. The intersection at the Cedar Park District Park, I think that's a fabulous location too. I do like this idea of spreading it to Northwest Park, although there's no greenway intersection there, but, yeah. So, I don't, that's, besides the greenway, I got nothing else for you.
Thank
And I don't want to put one too close to the town center either. Although I will tell you, the one that's kind of blue there, that might, if we land on the color scheme, that might work really well at the Indian Creek Trailhead, but, you know, which is close proximity to the town center. But anyhow, that's as much feedback I can give you right now, Brittany.
Thank you.
So I like all this. This is going a lot differently than I expected. Lots more feedback. I was thinking kind of more generally, I've seen the trolls, and they're not really like statues to look at. They're more like things to find. So like being along greenways is kind of more what I'm thinking. Quick question to staff. How sturdy is the installation? Like how movable are they? Because I ask because it'd be nice to start like at Morrisville Community Park near the 2 baseball fields and show it like a statue for a month or 2 and then move it to a different part of the park. Like the butterflies are flying to different places, and then we can do scavenger hunts and try to introduce people to more of our greenways, because Mill Spring Greenway and Grace Park Greenway, I'd imagine that maybe 5% of our town knows they exist. So we could use this as a theme. So they don't be permanently at these spots within each park. So I was just wondering if that's reasonable.
They're about 50 to 60 pounds. Yeah, so they can be moved. These are designed to be temporary. They are certainly fixed, and so they won't be moved until they are moved by Public Works. But certainly they can be moved. And I think that's one thing when you're looking at the colors for town center or branding, keeping in mind that, you know, once that is solidified, once town center has been established, then we can always respond with public art. And I think that the other thing was how it's fixed, but yeah, it can be moved.
Okay, so I'd like to sort of think about that these are initial locations, in which case if we're starting off like as statues, I think a lot of the locations that were shown before, like even at that little place near the shelter at Morrisville Community Park, even though it has a thing, a lot of people see it there. So we have to decide, are we looking for places where everyone's going to see it, or where people see it when they walk by, and it's kind of like a surprise discovery. So I'm pretty good with what everyone said. And so if we were to do the dog park, for example, you could put it down at that stub that you were talking about, Hatcher Creek, where that thing is. So it's still near the dog park and moving around. I don't think the dog park is too close to the fire station, for example. MFC and the mural might be a little
I can
close,
see it.
but
I can see the.
you can
murals in
see
the dog park.
from both.
Yeah.
So those are just kind of my loose thoughts. It doesn't sound like we're giving final decisions now, but I think whatever you've gotten from the group, I'm good with those locations, knowing that we might move them around a little bit and have some fun with it. And I'm all in favor of doing 5 more as soon as possible. Funding is pretty much the thing. So if we want to really lean into doing things like this for our community, we just have to realize that the funding is the holdback. So it's up to us to decide on that.
All right, so now that everyone has had a chance to weigh in, Councilmember Patel,
Yeah,
were
I
you?
just have one question. If we go with both Town Hall and Indian Creek Trailhead, are they too close?
In my opinion, yes.
Well, you wouldn't be able
Right.
to see them from each other. I mean, you would see the Indian Creek Trailhead from.
And that's what I'm asking, that,
Very few people are gonna see it at town hall.
I
Okay.
think town hall, you don't need it. I would go with Indian Creek Trailhead because there's more.
no, well,
events
Indian,
forward.
we already have Indian Creek Trailhead, so. if
Let's
we-
all try to use our microphones more. I know I've been guilty about not doing that. You're doing it fine.
Okay. So if we don't do it at Town Hall, then maybe we can put it at one of the other trail intersection instead of Town Hall? Yeah, all right. So then we just need to identify that.
Okay, so
Now I have another question because now it makes me nervous that they're movable. So are they bolted down?
They are.
Because
they are bolted down. It's movable in the same sense that a park bench is movable. So it's there, but it can be removed.
Okay, because I don't want these to end up in college dorms.
And to summarize what I've heard, I hear a one majority certainly want adjacency to greenways. So I think that Morrisville Community Park, identifying the location that is closest to the greenway. Let's see here, Cedar Fork District Park and Indian Creek Trailhead, because those 3 are located close to greenways. So moving forward with those 3 locations, the others is that you will us to come back with additional options, and I think the runner-up for the 4th would have been Northwest Park. Okay.
Councilmember Kessling had something to add? I didn't see yours.
I guess along the lines with the, thinking about, kids climbing on it, certainly Northwest Park is a popular place for kids, so that's a consideration as well, especially if it's very prominently located. But I also, I liked your suggestion, Mayor Colley, about where are the places that are least popular and putting them there to be a treasure to find, and maybe encouraging people to go to these more underutilized areas of recreation in town. I kind of like the principle. I don't know how well that makes sense.
Okay. I think that you do have 3 selected prominent locations there. So I think that when we come back, staff will come back with a list of least prominent locations, those that we would, inspire those to visit areas of town where they have not. So we'll come back with that list and certainly maybe additional locations in Northwest Park as well.
I love this conversation. One last thing made me think about maybe popping them around to different shopping centers at some point too. Like one of them moves around town for different things, maybe bring one to an event, things like that. They won't be ready for S'moresville, but definitely for something soon after that, maybe. Just a thought.
Since they're going to be bolted down, I'm assuming that you're going to have some type of pad everywhere you take, right?
That's true.
Okay.
That could be a way to do it too. I'd like to recognize the town manager, please.
Yeah, they will be bolted down and on a pad, perhaps elevated, So I think before we commit to too much mobility, we want to talk with Public Works and see what kind of commitment we're making, and then we can certainly bring that back to you when it comes back.
Yeah, they're pretty strong, but maybe not that strong.
Well, I think it's just a question of how much is involved with pouring that pad. Do you have to pull the pad after you, I mean, there's factors that we just want to sort out, make sure you're fully informed before we make a commitment to move something that maybe not.
If I could just make a comment about the mobility, I think that where we install these should have a minimum of a year. If you're interested in having something here, something there, maybe we should have an icon on wheels that you could take to events. But I don't think once things are installed, they should be moved around. But maybe think about it in a different way of where can we have a mobile one? And then that allows a lot more flexibility and Public Works will be happy. And safety, is a very important issue too, so we can ensure safety.
And also another point is that, this is our first round of installation, so additional locations can be prioritized that we can look at for installation in the future.
And just,
And once the first 5 are installed, I'm quite sure that we'll hear from the public a lot more about where there should be others.
That's true.
and just one more comment on mobility is, if we're going to have a pad, I'm assuming that once we move it somewhere else, that we would have to do something with the pad and not just, otherwise it will look ugly, right? So we're gonna have to put something else there, or we just leave it there, or what do we do?
Yeah, I don't like a
Yeah.
pad in general. I think that's unnecessary. I mean, the disc golf baskets are kind of bolted down somewhat.
Yeah, so we just need to consider
I
that.
think there's a middle ground there.
All right, thank you all for that feedback. We'll move on to task number 2 for tonight, which is our design selection. So again, this is a super fun portion here. So let's see here. We will evaluate both the work samples as well that has been provided by each artist, and also those will be indicative of their skill level. So we'll want to look at those closely. First, then we'll also review the proposals as well. And then following that, you'll each be given 5 stickers, one with 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then you will circulate and rank them, 5 being the highest, so that the 5 designs with the highest tally overall sum of points will be the 5 that will be installed.
This is the information that's right there.
Yes, this is the information that we have before us. I want to go over it here at the table and then have an opportunity to walk around. So we have the top 10 designs that have been prioritized by Parks and Rec. So our first artist is Molly Chopin. She is local to Raleigh, and all artists are local to North Carolina. So she is a painter and art educator, and her artwork is she endeavors to inspire love, healing, and resiliency. Her work is also exhibited in galleries and festivals all over the United States as well as internationally. If you look at her designs, you'll see that she has a strong sense of movement, texture, and also can be, visually viewed from afar and up close, because that's something that we'll want to evaluate as you're looking at the designs. So this is her proposal here. Again, you'll see the sense of movement and that kind of contrast. And this is the front, and that would be the kind of upward facing, and then the back, which is downward facing. I'm not going to spend a lot of time going over them because you all will look at them very closely, but just wanted to give you a little bit of that. So Molly's proposal, again, the design reflects diversity, inclusivity, and also the creative spirit of Morrisville, and that is intended to uplift and inspire viewers. And I'll also note that these are in order of the ranking for public that the Parks and Recs Board ranked. And the first three were all tied for first place. I'll also mention that as well. So our second artist is Sampata Agarwal. She is a resident of Morrisville, and she has a passion for visual arts. Again, she is the artist that completed the mural at MAFC, so we have an example of her work there. These are also some examples that she has provided. Again, she has a strong, detail-oriented style, very skilled execution, and a strong usage of color and pattern as well, which is evident from her mural at MAFC. This is her proposal. This is of the Kalamkari. That is the style, and it is indigenous to India. The intricate flowers and the nature kind of depict the style that depicts beauty, change, and growth. So our third artist, again, these were all three tied for first place. This is Hassani, a local artist to Cary, North Carolina. Hassani is a student at UNC Chapel Hill, majoring in psychology, and has done 3 large-scale murals, 2 at Green Level High School. And you'll see their work samples. Again, lots of great kind of painting technique, lots of blending, use of shadow and texture. So you can see that, and you'll be able to see that a little closely when you walk around and see the work samples adjacent to their offerings as well. So the proposal, the artwork represents Morrisville, and it's designed to showcase the 4 seasons that we experience through 4 flowers that are associated with North Carolina during all seasons. And this is the design. So again, this would be the front and the back, and that's labeled as you walk around as well. Our fourth artist is Ruchi Rao, and this artist is native to Charlotte, North Carolina. So Ruchi is a mixed media artist. Her work is displayed in galleries in Charlotte. And again, you'll see that most of her examples are more mixed media, as well as some painting as well. Lots of good use of color and pattern, certainly looking at lights beside darks to add that contrast. And again, their proposal here represents these colors and vibrant patterns are representative of the growth, hope, and community. Our next artist is Kelsey. She has a good use of lights and darks, again, for contrast, good blending techniques, shadow usage, and light. So those are some things highlighted in her work samples so that you can see those again if you're looking at the designs. A little on her proposal. The design seeks to invoke the comfort of community, and so that viewers can see are filled with childlike wonder. So again, the design showcases several flowers that are native to Morrisville and commonly found around the town and near Lake Crabtree. Our sixth artist is Cecilia Walker. She is a resident of Morrisville. She experiments with lots of forms of art. You'll see some watercolor work as well as acrylics. Good, again, with lots of strong design details and diversity with texture as well as use of shadow as well in her work. You'll want to look at her design proposal here, which she endeavors to showcase the 179 different species of butterflies native to North Carolina. One thing as you're walking around, and I think that you'll want to notice as you're here, try to imagine that these will be viewable from afar and up close, so keep that in mind. So as you're at the table, think about what you see when you're at the table versus how you experience it when you're close, because that will be representative of how it will be in the built form as well. Our next artist is Kristen Owens, who is local to Goldsboro. Her work explores transformation, connectivity, and relationship between people and nature. Her work is very symbolic, and you'll see that she has a really good style of kind of bold colors, textures, and symbolism. So again, this is her proposal, and it is entitled Rise Together. And it is designed to celebrate the beauty that emerges from different people, ideas, and cultures together. And that the butterfly symbolizes transformation, hope, and growth, with one wing that has more cool colors and the other that has more of your warm colors. And again, these are representative of energy, strength, and new beginnings. Our 8th artist here is Mayanthi. She is a multidisciplinary artist, and she is located in Durham, North Carolina. Her public art is centered around public engagement. And again, this is her proposal. Very experienced, very bold and rich color usage, lots of movement and contrast. So that's something to keep in mind here. And her proposal is really designed to be vibrant and flowing abstract forms that are outlined with gold. And this creates a sense of movement and depth and connection. Our next artist is Taji Dozier, who is local to Wendell, North Carolina. Again, a multidisciplinary artist who works with transforming memories into place, and that is her style. Very strong usage of color, movement, shadow, and contrast you'll see in their work samples. And going on to the proposal. So this design uses, again, bold color and floral imagery to celebrate the honeybee, honeycomb patterns, which you'll see here, as well as bees that are in native grasses, which are symbolic of the relationship between pollinators and the ecosystem that they sustain. The reverse side has a chrysanthemum, which is a flower that is native. So that's a little on this design. And then lastly, we have Ivy Grace, who is our last artist. These are some work samples, which again, you'll see very bold color usage, movement, texture, very easily understood from afar, and all of, again, very bold color again. And so we'll go on to her design as well. So it is inspired by Indian culture, native patterns, and representative of a folk art feeling. So the front of this one, the front and back are exactly alike. So that's a little bit on the designs here. So again, we are going to get up in a moment here. It is important that as you all are walking around, one, look at the work samples, think about how they are able to execute those work samples, because again, that is indicative of how they will execute onto the icon itself. And then the other thing, again, think about how they appear from where you're seated, and then when you move closer, because one, we want them to be able to be understood in a way, or at least colorful and vibrant from afar, and then also when you're closer, that there is detail that you are able to take in closely as well. So that's something. And then so I will go ahead and hand out your stickers. Again, yeah, I have a question here. I will hand out stickers here in a moment as well. And so you will use the 5, that is your highest ranking, and 1 being your least. So I'm going to answer a question first, and then we'll get up and circulate.
So the first thing is, we are going to have 5 unique butterflies, and that's what we're voting on, correct?
Correct.
It's not like all 5 are going to be the same.
Yes, all 5 unique. And so you will be selecting 5 different designs.
Okay. The other one's a little more sensitive question is, we have a fantastic mural at the MAFC, and the artist is very talented. But I see the icons as having opportunities for other artists to participate, and there is the artist that did the MAFC mural did submit and beautiful designs, but I want to try to expand our, artists that participate. So everybody can vote how they want, but I just want to kind of bring that as an awareness that if we want to include additional artists, that might be a consideration towards your selection.
Okay. And I'll also note that on the application, we didn't specify the artist could not resubmit. And so if that is something that we have a concern in the future as well, that can be something that can be specified.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's just for consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Brittany, I have a question about this
option down here on the lower right.
Yes.
In the presentation, it showed a dark option and then this white option. So are you telling me that's the one we're voting on, not the darker option? I'm trying to figure out why there's another option here in the presentation.
Yes, so the lighter option was preferred by Parks and Recs. And so that is the one that would be moving forward.
Okay.
Again, if this body chose to, if that one is selected as one of the top 5 and you all want to consider the dark version, then that's something that we can do as well.
Okay, thank you.
Of the 10 artists, how many of them are Morrisville residents? I counted at least 2.
Let's see here.
I think it was,
2 Morrisville residents.
and the one who did the mural at Morrisville Aquatic and Fitness Center, that's one of them?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I had a question about the butterflies. I thought one, the upward was dark and the other was light.
No, it's the front and back.
That's what I mean. So these are 2 white. I thought the option was black on one side, white on the other side.
No, it's
No, that was not the
front and back white or front and back black.
Now I understand. Thank you.
All right, I think that we're ready to circulate. I'm going to hand out the stickers here, and I will also be circulating, so if there are additional questions. But again, 5 will be our highest vote. 5 is best.
It's a weighted average.
Yeah, just a quick question. Was it communicated to the artists that, while there is a front and a back, this is kind of a 3D piece of art where someone could walk all the way around it?
Yes,
Okay.
that was communicated.
We're gonna do it wrong.
That Brittany.
Big high five.
What was that? Proclamations.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so, okay, and they're here. Got little wings.
Yeah, it does got little wings.
There's wings here. There's honey.
All except 2.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
This one has, you can see, like, it's
Yeah.
different, but others. It's like front and back is the same.
Either the pattern could be utilized, or again, if there's a wax season, that's like it's a total. There are ways to do it.
Same on both.
Yeah, I don't like that. Yes, I love this concept. I don't think this is, I don't need that.
It's gonna get dingy.
It's kind of, it's not like too many. So I'm going with this one too.
Looks like steam glass.
All the stickers are on the same one.
It's all group thing.
Is it too late?
Yeah, look what it is. Here, wait, you don't have fingernails here.
Good luck reading all those numbers on the stickers.
That's not coming up.
I can just tell her whatever the number is.
No double voting.
People brought their own stickers.
That's right. It's gonna be interesting to see which one is. Because there's numbers on the dots, not just the dots, but with numbers on the dot.
Well, that's the thing, yeah, it's a weird average.
Yeah, which I think is kind of cool.
Yeah, quick. Did you? I didn't bother, they had anything.
Bunch of fives, I don't see any sixes.
The points are added, right?
Yes.
No, but 6 is not,
6 times 1 isn't gonna do it.
right,
I get it.
I'll just let you keep that fantasy right now.
No, it's neat that
That's
everyone at
helpful.
least put it in their top 5,
Yeah,
I guess.
It's hopeful.
Put it in your top 5 means something.
Mhm.
All right, we'll do a quick test.
There should be 36 stickers.
30.
Oh, 30, sorry. Maybe there was.
36 is a great number, because the 6 times 6, I like all the squares.
Yeah. So T should have phoned it in, so.
You know, it's kind of nice how we really do, I mean, we really do have kind of, we all come together on
I don't think
these.
that's 1. That's a
No, that's it,
0.
that was crossed out.
Okay, I was looking close, thank you.
Started to- That's when I pieced out.
So let's see here. The 5 that have, I'll be pointing to the 5 that have been selected, and then the 6 that will be the alternates. This one has been selected.
Hold on one second, you need the mic.
Oh, I have it. I'm holding it. Okay, so this one has been selected as a top 5. Top 5. Top 5. Top 5. And top 5, and our alternate is this one. Right.
Ms. Brittany, may you please give the name of the artist so that I can?
Okay, so our first artist is Simphader Agarwal. Next would be Kelsey Ferrara. Mayavi would be our third. Hassani would be our fourth. And Molly would be our fifth, with Taji being our alternate. Thank you all very much.
I would just like to share that I think Chopin, some of her other work that was demonstrated, I would love to consider a way to enhance some of our stormwater infrastructure, like at Park West Village, the raised sewers and things like that, as were evidenced. I'm not sure what the next steps would be to start doing stuff like that around town, but Raleigh and other places do things like that, especially in their downtown area, covering up unattractive utility boxes and stuff like that. I think that would be another really nice way to augment our art programs in some way. I'd like to recognize the town manager.
So I think we can add that to the list, but that would come after the icons, likely in the next funding cycle, when you would be discussing, I think, do we do additional murals? Do we do icons? Do we do something like that?
Understood. Like I said, it's about resources and timing and stuff like that. So appreciate that, that clarification.
All right, again, just to sum up, now that we have our designs selected, thank you all very much for that. Staff will be back with additional locations.
You don't need anything else from us at this time? Okay,
None at this time.
so it's 7 o'clock. I think it's good for us to just move right into the next one. So at this time, we'll give Ms. Johnson a moment to step away, and we're going to ask Brett Martin and Ben Howell. Brett is from Town of Morrisville. Ben is from Campo, used to be from Town of Morrisville, to discuss Wake Bus Transit, Rapid Transit, Western Corridor Extension update. If you guys, gentlemen, could please join us at the table.
The person button, right? That's right, yeah. Gosh, that gets me every time. All right, well, good evening, Mayor Colley and members of Town Council. Brett Martin here, Transportation Project Manager with the town, and also joining us this evening is Ben Howell, who is the Wake Transit Program Manager with Campo Capital Area Metropolitan Planning Organization. And tonight we are bringing you an update on the planning work that has transpired over the past year or so to further develop the service concept and infrastructure needs for the Wake Bus Rapid Transit Western Corridor Extension, which is proposed to extend a core bus rapid transit service between downtown Raleigh and downtown Cary westward through Morrisville to Research Triangle Park. And most recently, with active participation by the town, by town staff, and a small financial contribution from the town, Campo completed a concept of operations study that followed up on prior alternatives analysis work to better refine what the western extension would look like. And the Campo Executive Board will soon consider and lock in what is called a locally preferred alternative, you'll hear more about this later, to carry forward for further development and implementation at its regular meeting in September. And so tonight we are going to cover some background for this project, including some planning history and context, what we have done over the past year or so with the concept of operation study, and then we will talk a little bit more about the locally preferred alternative, which will be on council's consent agenda for your August 11th meeting to consider adoption of a resolution to endorse the locally preferred alternative before it's considered by the Campo board. So really today, we'll walk through what you see on the screen. This is just an informational item. There aren't any decisions at this juncture in the planning process where town council needs to step in and provide feedback and make a decision on anything. While no specific feedback is being requested, you are encouraged to ask questions to better understand the proposed project, and we're also happy to take feedback that will be helpful for informing next steps as this moves into project development once a project sponsor takes over and takes us into that stage. So just wanted to mention that. And so we'll just get into the background planning context and the town of Morrisville's participation and what has been done so far. And of course, you'll hear a little bit more about town of Morrisville participation later in the presentation. But to set the stage for what we are talking about when we refer to the Western Bus Rapid Transit Extension, we're talking about there's a core Western Bus Rapid Transit corridor that was originally laid out in the 2027 Wake Transit Plan that was adopted back in late 2015, which runs between downtown Raleigh and downtown Cary. And you see the routing for that, the locally preferred alternative for that was adopted several years ago, actually. And so what you're seeing on the map there in that location is the locally preferred alternative for that, and it is currently under development and design, well on its way. And then we're talking about, when we talk about the Western BRT extension, we're talking about from downtown Cary to Research Triangle Park. And the line that you see on the map there is the recommended locally preferred alternative, but it's not locked in yet because the Campo board has to take action on it to lock it in. But what you see there is that. So why are we spending money on this? Why this investment? Well, BRT is really mostly, it's all about speed enhancing and reliability enhancing infrastructure. We already have transit service between RTP and downtown Cary. One fixed route service, which is Route 310, which comes through Morrisville, pretty much stays on the east side of Morrisville. But really the reason is that BRT provides reliable transit service, and it would provide more reliable transit service between Cary and Research Triangle Park by implementing that speed enhancing and reliability enhancing infrastructure to bypass congestion points and facilitate faster transit service that is more competitive and improves the rider experience. It also would accommodate existing and continued growth of the corridor's travel market and provide a competitive alternative mode to driving. As Western Wake County continues to develop, densify, there's going to be more trips, there's going to be more congestion, particularly on some of the roadways that we have that are hard to expand capacity, as you know. And so as we continue to grow and develop, this will become more important. I also wanted to note that the concept of the bus rapid transit between Raleigh and RTP through Morrisville has been assumed and included in the regional transportation plans going back to 2018. It was first included in the 2045 Campo Metropolitan Transportation Plan and was subsequently included in the 2050 and 2055 plans. The 2055 plan was just adopted recently. It's been included in the 2030 and 2035 Wake Transit plans as well, which were completed in 2021 and 2025 respectively. It's in the North Carolina Statewide Transportation Improvement Program with construction funding programmed in 2030. And it's been in there for a while. It was actually awarded that funding through the SPOT process. I can't remember if it was SPOT 5 or 6, but one of those. And I will say it is not included in the town's comprehensive transportation plan currently that, of course, was adopted back in 2019. But it will certainly be in the new one, the updated one that the council will consider later this fall and heading into the early winter. So just wanted to provide that background there on with some of the planning, and then really going back to the 2021, 2022 timeframe, following up from that kind of planning work that I laid out in partnership with local government jurisdictions that the BRT concept would traverse. Campo carried out a major investment study for the corridor that assessed the existing and future conditions of the study area, which included looking at the travel market, land use plans, and other factors, evaluated a whole lot of different potential segments that could be used for the alignment of the corridor to develop a locally preferred alternative, and then collected a lot of public and stakeholder feedback at that time. And then following up from that, the concept of operation study, which kicked off last year, was really meant to refine a lot of the technical details of what the MIS produced. So looked at things like trying to match it up really well with the core BRT corridor and the service planning for that. So that's what route interlining is really getting at. Identifying a project sponsor or operator, looking at the appropriate service levels for the travel market, and then what kind of fleet is needed, and then also looking at station requirements, other infrastructure requirements that are needed for speed enhancing infrastructure, and confirming the alignment stations and technology. There wasn't any public engagement that happened with that because it was a very technical exercise, okay? And there was a whole lot of public and stakeholder feedback that was provided in the last phase, which was the MIS. Now, following up from that, it will be heading into, following Campo's consideration of the LPA, design and engineering for each station and other investments, and each queue jump, and if there's going to be any bus lanes or bus on shoulder that's used, of course, it would identify that as well. And if there's any right-of-way acquisition or easement acquisition needed, it would identify that. The town of Morrisville participated in all of this very closely. On the town of Morrisville staff participation they participated on the core technical team for the study for the MIS, participated in the core technical team for the concept of operation study, and of course it provides a partial funding contribution for the study. But I do want to note for the design and engineering and moving forward, there is no town financial contribution necessary for project design or implementation for this. This is a project that it's not completely funded yet, but it will be. There's a few pieces left with it. So the town's not on the hook for anything here financially, but if there's a desire to do town betterments, which I don't want to go down that rabbit hole tonight, there will be plenty of times where we come back to you and talk about the project. Then, of course, a financial contribution can be provided to do that, okay? And it's similar to what we would do for an NCDOT project in the town. So now I'm going to turn over to Ben. He's going to walk us through the rest of this and really kind of pick up with a little bit more on the MIS and then take us through the BRT concept of operation study that was just completed. I'm going to hand this over to him.
All right. Thank you.
You can drive, right?
Okay. All right. So the major investment study that was done back in 2021 through 2023 consisted of 3 phases: BRT education and development of the evaluation framework, development and analysis of alternatives for each corridor, and then presentation of findings and initial locally preferred alternative recommendations. The MIS began around May 2021 and was completed and presented to the Wake Transit, TPAC, and Campo boards in March of 2023. The MIS first divided the Western Corridor extension into segments, identifying alignment alternatives for each segment, and ultimately the corridors narrowed down to the 3 alignments shown on the screen, and these alignments were then evaluated against the 4 criteria that are shown on the screen. After the evaluation, the alignment alternative 2 was selected in the MIS utilizing NC 54 and Evans McCrimmon. And now getting into the BRT extension concept of operation study that we just recently completed. The concept of operation study recently completed confirmed the locally preferred alternative from the MIS and developed detailed operating, capital, and funding implementation plans for the extension corridor. The CONOP study also developed updated BRT program design guidelines based on the work previously completed by Raleigh for the core BRT corridors. As for the design guidelines, City of Raleigh published draft BRT system standards in September 2021, primarily for their use at the time in designing the 4 core BRT corridors: New Bern, Southern, Western, and Northern. The components included standards for dedicated lanes, transit signal priority, frequent on-time service, off-board fare collection, enhanced station, specialized vehicles, and unique branding. And the document also included detailed standards for green stormwater infrastructure based on Raleigh standards and practices at the time. And so from the time Raleigh drafted and published those guidelines until we worked on them through this CONOPS, they were just used for those core BRT corridors. But when we were scoping the concept of operation study, we realized that we needed to update those standards. And ultimately we transitioned them to guidelines that could be used for development of any future BRT in Wake County under the Wake Transit Plan. So the guidelines include two BRT service types, urban BRT and arterial BRT. Urban BRT operates in at least 50% dedicated guideway with peak frequencies of 10 minutes, closely matching the requirements for federal capital investment grant funds. And arterial BRT generally operates in mixed traffic with peak frequencies of 15 to 30 minutes. But both service types may include unique branding, specialized buses, and utilize transit signal priority and queue jumps. As you can see, the recommended frequency for arterial BRT may be up to twice or actually half that of urban BRT, 15 to 30 minutes versus 10 minutes in the peak hours. And stations are proposed to have similar standards, although flexibility is built in based on the type of vehicle used and land use context of the area. And that's the other thing I want to bring up too with these guidelines is, and that's one of the reasons we renamed them to guidelines, is that we wanted to build in flexibility to really be able to address the land use context of the areas that these BRTs are going in. And you see here station elements, again, after a lot of discussion, we ended up keeping the station elements the same for both styles of BRT, with flexibility depending on the context of whether some of these elements may or may not be able to be constructed in certain stations. But generally speaking, all the BRT stations should have a shelter with seating, trash and recycling receptacles, bike racks, and lighting, and then we have recommended station elements below. Urban BRT is expected to use specialized 60-foot buses with boarding doors on both sides, while arterial BRT may use either standard 40-foot buses or the specialized 60-foot buses. And you cannot believe the amount of conversation we had over buses and the different types of buses and whether 40-foot buses are available with doors on both sides or one side, and whether 40-foot buses can do level boarding or not. But this is what we settled on for the guidelines. And then the biggest difference here for the intersection guideway treatments is that urban BRT is expected to have at least 50% dedicated guideway or bus lanes, while arterial BRT will likely be completely in mixed traffic, although where possible, we would love to see arterial BRT have bus lanes. And then finally, with the branding guidelines, the guidelines clarify that use of the Go Plus branding is generally reserved for Raleigh, but may be used by other operators in coordination with Raleigh. One final note too I'll make on the guidelines is we talked a lot about the green stormwater infrastructure chapter that was in the standards, and we ultimately ended up, I can't remember if we kept it in or not, but we loosened and added a lot more flexibility to that because the original requirements and standards that were in there were solely based on Raleigh standards and their practices. And they have found out through design and beginning construction of the New Bern BRT that some of this green stormwater infrastructure just does not work well with BRT. So next I'll review the scenarios that we evaluated. So we evaluated 4 scenarios for the Western BRT extension, 2 scenarios operated by Go Raleigh, and 2 scenarios operated by Go Triangle, Go Cary. We also considered 2 additional scenarios, but eliminated them early on due to either being very similar to the other 4 scenarios, or, for example, the skip stop service just was going to be very, very difficult to plan and implement. During the development scenarios, we talked about and considered 4 different station types: the core BRT stations that'll be developed as part of the Western BRT project, the transit facility, which is the Cary Multimodal Center, and then we, for the extension itself, we looked at opening day stations and future infill stations. And as you can see on this next slide, the western extension through Mooresville only has one future infill station identified at this time, and that would be Perimeter Park. And that we identified that's a future infill really because it's dependent on future development in the area and other transit connections within Perimeter Park. As we started talking about stations, we came to realize that the Perimeter Park station, which is identified and has been identified out on Chapel Hill Road, really only serves a very small portion of that area. And so we decided to designate it as future infill and see if there's can be developed a future need for it with more connections into the park.
Yeah, the other thing to mention about that is Perimeter Park, where that would be, and Wake Tech are very, very close together. Which really kind of defeats the guidelines of the spacing that you would want to have for BRT. Keep in mind, the more stops you have on BRT, the more you're slowing it down. And so it's a really, really delicate balance between access and speed that you have to maintain. And they're so close together, it's kind of like, well, if there's a lot of demand at Perimeter Park, or whatever demands at Perimeter Park now, it can very easily access that at Wake Tech. But if those conditions change such that Perimeter Park on its own would warrant such a future infill station, then that can be done. The amount of access that we have to provide would have to be pretty significant for that to be done, though. So, thank you, Bill.
You're welcome. So next, we'll get into the actual evaluation of the scenarios. So the first goal we used to evaluate the scenarios was access to destinations, how long it would take to travel on the service from different destinations. And as you can see on the screen there, the two Go Raleigh operated scenarios had the shortest travel time, primarily due to not having to transfer between buses. But as you can see, we looked at both midpoint travel points and then the entire corridor and just the extension itself. And so for anyone, once this is in operation, if anyone wants to come from Clayton all the way up to RTP, it would take about 134 minutes on the bus. Next, we evaluated the scenarios on access to transit services, specifically looking at transfer and wait times for each scenario. The last two scenarios include a transfer time due to switching buses, while the two Go Raleigh operated scenarios have no transfer time. And I realize that the legend isn't on these slides, but there is a legend for the little arrow and circle symbols. It was on the previous slide, but the up arrow, and and we scored the scenarios relative to each other. So the up arrow means that a scenario is considered a little bit better compared to the others. Circle means it's neutral compared to others, and then down arrow means it's a lower score than the others. Then we evaluated the scenarios against the goal of productive and sustainable service. We evaluated this using operating costs and capital costs per ride. This slide here shows the estimated operating cost per rider for each scenario based on the operator's operating cost per hour and the number of hours that the extension service would operate. And so as you can see there, the scenario 1 is a higher cost than scenario 2, primarily because it would be every single BRT bus would be continuing on, so it's more hours, whereas scenario 2 is the lowest cost scenario. And then scenario 3 is, again, higher cost because Go Triangle has a higher cost per hour. And then scenario 4 is a little bit lower due to the fact that Go Carry has a lower cost per hour. But then you have to build in that they have additional buses. They'd have to purchase additional buses, and it would have a lower ridership. This slide shows capital cost per rider, and the primary variable here is the cost of the buses, both in number and type. So as you can see here, scenario 1, Go Raleigh would have to purchase additional 60-foot buses, which are more expensive. In scenario 1 and 2, scenario 1, they would have to purchase more than in scenario 2. And then in scenarios 3 and 4, both those agencies would have to purchase additional 40-foot buses. Finally, we also looked at qualitative operational concerns under this goal, location and capacity of operations and maintenance facilities, whether the vehicles could allow for level boarding or not, layover and turnaround challenges, and reliability challenges. So, and as you can see here, the deadhead distance to the nearest terminus is the same for scenarios 1 and 2 because it's going back to Go Raleigh Station, whereas in scenarios 3 and 4, it would have to go to either Cary Multimodal Center or up by RTP. And then for this particular extension, the facility location was not as big of a determinant. On the southern extension, it was much bigger because the southern extension is further away from all the bus operations and maintenance facilities. And then I'll talk a little bit more about route length reliability in a later slide. But as you can see, with 60 footers, we believe level boarding is possible and we'll certainly aim for that. With scenarios 3 and 4 and utilizing 40-foot buses, it's a lot more difficult for level boarding. The last goal used to evaluate the scenarios was safety and compatibility with surrounding environment. And this was evaluated by looking at land use types and densities in the area in 2035 and 2055 and comparing that to the level land use density could support. So as you can see here, in 2035, the density in this area would support 15 to 30 minute service. And by 2055, we do believe that full 10 to 15 minute BRT service could be supported. And that was one of the other considerations we had as we were reviewing and evaluating these scenarios, is that with scenario 2, it would be very easy to go from scenario 2 to scenario 1, where every bus serves the entire way from downtown Raleigh all the way out to RTP. Whereas if we went with scenarios 3 or 4, it would be much more difficult to do. And so we do fully believe that opening day will probably be operating at the 15 to 30 minute service, but you could see the higher level true BRT service here within a few years after opening, depending on ridership. There it goes. In summary, scenario 2 performed the best on all the evaluation criteria and goals, as you can see on this screen. So speaking about the reliability trade-offs, we did look at that through the study, and we determined that scenario 2 was still the best option for providing the most service and meeting the goals of Wake Transit in this area, Wake County, with the understanding that with it being a longer route, it does open up some potential reliability concerns. Such as if something happens to a bus as it's on the further end of the route towards RTP. But, there are ways that they can, Raleigh, as the project sponsor, will be able to set up their operations to sort of hopefully plan for that and avoid that chance, that risk as much as possible. The recommended service scenario is, again, approximately 20-minute frequency during the weekday peak hours, dropping to 30 to 40-minute frequencies in off-peak hours and weekends. Similar service span to the Western BRT route. It may open on opening day. It may either start a little bit later or end a little bit earlier than the core BRT route, but it's very similar in the total number of hours. And then the extension will utilize transit signal priority and queue jumps to ensure reliability and travel time. So as you can see on this map here, every other Western BRT bus will continue west from Cary to serve the extension, and we do expect that will likely replace Go Triangle 310. And the map above shows the proposed station locations that have been identified through the MIS and the concept of operations study. Then this map shows the intersections where transit signal priority and queue jumps are recommended. All the signalized intersections are recommended to have transit signal priority, and 18 intersections are recommended to have queue jumps. As part of the concept of operations study, when it came to queue jumps, we analyzed intersections, and recommended Q-jumps to be constructed at intersections that had supporting infrastructure such as already wide paved shoulders on either side of the intersection, where they could be constructed at a lower cost and more quickly. So we did actually go through an exercise through the study for each of the intersections when we're looking at Q-jumps to determine whether it was a low-cost Q-jump, medium-cost Q-jump, or high-cost Q-jump. And we are only recommending the Q-jumps at low or medium cost. That Q-jump is where on either side of an intersection, there will be essentially an extra lane that allows the bus to pull in. It would be a bus-only lane, so it would allow them to pull beside traffic. And then the light through transit signal priority would generally turn green a few seconds ahead of the rest of the traffic, allowing them to pass all the traffic stopped at the light and get back into the regular flow of traffic. So as you can see on this side, annual operating costs of both the core and extension service altogether expected to be about $9.4 million and require a total of 14 60-foot articulated buses. The capital cost is estimated to be $62.1 million, but we did note that there are several bus and road infrastructure projects that may affect the final design, such as the Triangle Mobility Hub that Go Triangle is currently working on, the Downtown Cary Multimodal Center, and then the road construction around McCrimmon Parkway and NC 54 with the overpass and the widening. That mouse doesn't like me. And service could be open as early as 2032, but that is dependent on, as Brett said, we have to fill a funding gap, and then we also, it's dependent on the Go Raleigh staff availability on their BRT team and the progress on the Western BRT, because this extension will not and should not open before the Western BRT itself is open. And then finally, just a slide on coordination of local investments. So again, we're, from the Campo side, from the Wake Transit Program, we want to see Garner, Clayton, Cary, Morrisville, RTP prioritizing pedestrian biking connections to the future BRT stations. Also ensuring the local transit services should be well coordinated and with the proposed BRT service and stations. And then, potential for new local transit services that could expand the reach of the BRT in Clayton and Garner, and then here in Morrisville around Perimeter Park. And then we'll obviously be closely coordinating with Morrisville staff and Brett to track future projects and developments. Transit-oriented development planning for municipalities should continue to take the planned BRT stations into consideration. And then we should continue to, ensure that we coordinate and that your staff coordinate with NCDOT on roadway projects and expansion. And then the locally preferred alternative is shown here, and it's similar to the previous maps you've seen, just without the stations. But this is the locally preferred alternative map that will be considered by the Campo Executive Board in September. And again, while we've identified potential stations, the locally preferred alternative action is only approving the mode, BRT, alignment, and termini. Next steps, the locally preferred alternative, or LPA, adoption is required by Campo for regionally significant projects. And we are, as Brett said, you are expected to take action on an endorsement, on potential endorsement on August 11th. Campo will open a public comment period on the LPA on August 17th, and that'll run through September 15th. We'll have a TCC presentation consideration on September 3rd, and the Executive Board public hearing and consideration on September 16th. And then following the adoption, we will officially hand the reins over to the City of Raleigh, and they will become the project sponsor and will manage the future phases for design, engineering, and right-of-way and construction. And then just a couple notes on implementation. So as Brett said, we have funding in the adopted STIP for $100 million, but it's for the entire corridor from RTP to Clayton. We've identified about $20 million for this particular section. Wake Transit has programmed approximately $18 million as well. So we currently have a capital funding gap of approximately $24 million. The STIP funding is going to be available as early as 2030, possibly even a little bit earlier, with Wake Transit funding available as early as FY27. STIP funding available in 2030, Wake Transit funding available in FY27, but a lot of that is still dependent on, the funding is there, but when the work starts is going to be dependent on the city of Raleigh. They're still working through the agreement process with NCDOT, as well as staffing up their BRT team. And then town involvement moving forward. Of course, you'll have coordination with Raleigh on design and engineering phases, provide input as necessary as station location design gets underway, help manage any required permitting for stations or infrastructure. And then as we get closer to actually getting the service in operation, hopefully the town will help with marketing. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
I have a mix of questions and comments. So first of all, there's very comprehensive scoring and analysis done. I would expect nothing less from you, Ben. So appreciate that. With that said, I am very disappointed that option 3 is not the selected or recommended option. Because I feel like just looking at the map with the way the option 2 is, it goes around Morrisville. It does not include any residential areas. Perimeter Park, which was an office park intended to have a lot of business areas, is not planned to be activated day one. We have done a lot of work along McCrimmon, so it's nice to see that there is some McCrimmon activity with Wake Competition Center. But it seems like it's bringing people from out of Morrisville through to RTP instead of benefiting the Morrisville population. So although the recommendation is not option 3, which I think would benefit the residents and businesses of Morrisville the most, we don't have to pay for something that might not benefit the town as much directly for its residents. I think about access for people that live in Morrisville. A lot of traffic is from out of the area into the Morrisville, and will the bus rapid transit reduce that traffic? The analysis says possibly, but for Morrisville residents, we will still have to get in a car at this point. Our Morrisville shuttle does not service the areas where the bus rapid transit stops are today. We also have an on-demand scenario, so someone wanting to take a routed bus may or may not be able to take that on a regular basis to go to work, like to Raleigh, because you might not be able to get the shuttle when you want to get the shuttle. So Morrisville has some discussion about what that shuttle needs to be, because we need to get people up to this route somehow so they can take advantage of it, because today they can't. We don't really have the stops that intersect. Maybe Park West Village is about the only one that I see on this list. It concerns me that Morrisville doesn't have more of a connection through our town instead of outside of the town. I know that you move buses more efficiently when you go around Morrisville, because we do have a railroad, but our residents need to access this, and it's just going to be very cumbersome. And the costs of, Go Triangle and Go Cary, why aren't Go Carry and Go Triangle talking more together to try to make this even more integrated? Because this is a really great concept with the bus rapid transit, but I see a lot of barriers with the different systems, and the Morrisville shuttle just adds icing on the cake to that. I'd like to know more about park and ride lots. If we're going to have bus rapid transit and we don't have the buses coming through the town, we're gonna use our cars to go park, to get on the bus, so we don't have to ride to downtown Raleigh. So we need not just the shuttle coordinated, but we need park and ride lots. And that's real estate that's very expensive. So to summarize, I really prefer option 3. The Morrisville shuttle needs to be reconsidered as to prioritization and where the stops are. I want Perimeter Park to have a stop if we can. And I think that we need to really understand more about why we're not, including more of Morrisville instead of just the outskirts. Thanks.
If I can, just a couple of notes on that. One, that alternative 3 alignment using Davis Drive was screened out in the initial MIS. So that was a decision that was made 4 or 5 years ago, for one. But with that said, the other thing I did want to say is that there is another BRT planned and identified for that Davis Drive corridor that would run from Apex all the way up to RTP along that Davis Drive corridor. And we do anticipate that to be in a MIS and studied here probably in the next 2 to 3 years.
That's helpful, thank you.
Yeah, just to add to that, that'll be, the BRT on Davis, though, will be pretty long-term.
It will be past 2032.
But right now, I guess, I don't know if the news and notes have gone out yet, but right now, the Wake bus plan is being prepared, right? That is being developed, 2035. And that is looking at fixed route bus services throughout the county and concepts for new routes, route realignments, route redesigns. And a couple of routes are in there that would traverse Morrisville. One is Davis Drive oriented route from High House and, pretty much Davis and High House on up to the Regional Transit Center, okay? And there's another one that would be more east-west oriented, that would be from Park West Village, and it would kind of zigzag up to Parkside Town Commons. So we don't have fixed route service on Davis Drive now, but we've been through that, right? We need it, we want it.
Right.
I'm trying to rah that. And you really, really need that before you can do BRT, because it's really, really hard to just be like, oh yeah, we're just gonna do BRT, and you haven't done any seeding of the market. You haven't done any evaluation of where people really want to get on and where they're going and origins and destinations. So we really need to get that fixed route service going first. And then it can build up from there to BRT. I'll also say with the smart shuttle stops, we actually do have a lot of co-location already of smart shuttle stops where these BRT station locations are proposed. One that we don't is Walmart in Shiloh Glen, which later in the summer and into the early fall, you'll hear more about our node prioritization and selection for our expansion. But, Perimeter Park, Wake Tech, we have it, Competition Center, Park West Village. So they're co-located quite a bit, but I can pretty much assure you that when the BRT is built and it's operational, we are totally going to make a recommendation that we have nodes at those locations as well. There's no reason not to. I mean, why would you even so much of our ridership now is all about getting to other services, other fixed route services, right? Whether it's Go Carry or Go Triangle, that's not going to change, right? With BRT. It's actually going to become more important with BRT. So just wanted to wanted to note that.
Very good. I appreciate the update about the Apex route because that could help balance out, the Davis Drive Avenue because eventually Davis Drive, I believe, is going to be 6 lanes, but right now it's currently 4. So, I mean, that's like 2050, but.
Well, the CTP recommendation right now is 6 lanes, but the 6th lane or the 3rd lane on each side is a bus lane,
Okay,
not a regular open to traffic lane.
well, that's
So-
helpful. Thank you.
And one more thing I was just gonna say, if it makes you feel any better, you're not, Clayton also mentioned, Clayton staff had brought up some of the similar concerns. And what we told them and what we talked through is, again, this is stepping back several years back to the MIS, but when the MIS was originally done for this project, for both the extensions, the purpose really of this BRT was, it was not to provide the local service. It was more to provide that regional travel shed, regional travel market. So I understand your concerns, but the purpose of this BRT extension really was not to provide a lot of local service in Morrisville. It was really meant to be able to get people from downtown Cary to RTP or from downtown Raleigh to RTP, and not necessarily make a lot of stops or serve a large portion of Morrisville. And so that went into why it was routed the way it was.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay, I'm up next. So I think I'm up next. So I am going to echo everything Vicki just said. So Councilmember Scroggins-Johnson is 100% correct. I'm sorry, Ben. You're the messenger. I get it. You too, Brett. You're the messenger. But I am deeply disappointed too. And I will tell you what I'm really disappointed in more than anything, because you were clear, Brett, at the beginning. You said there's no input here. You're not looking for input from this council. This is here you are. And I also heard that the Campo board has to vote. I get that, but we all know how that works. So I guess what I'm really, again, echoing everything Vicki just said, what I'm really disappointed in is that there is a resolution here that is asking for our endorsement. I can't endorse this. If there was even some residential aspect to this where our residents benefited to some degree, I might be able to support a resolution of endorsement, but there's not. And what I would prefer is we send a letter to say we can endorse this and here's the reasons why. And come back in 20 or 30 years when you're ready for Davis Drive and maybe that future council will endorse the next plan. But this one, I can't do that. So this can't be on consent if we're even thinking about endorsing in a resolution, because I will definitely be a no. And that pains me because I have been a huge transit supporter here in Wake County, and I have been supportive of commuter rail and everything we've called it. I have been supportive of BRT, but there needs to be a benefit to our residents, and there's not. And I understand. I hear everything you're saying, Ben. I hear you, but I'm representing the residents in Morrisville. And so for me to tell them I endorse this when there's no benefit to them, and I agree, I hear that there's no financial, there's no ask of us. Our residents are paying. Our residents are paying for all of this, and yet they are not getting benefit. And so, there's not an additional ask right now, but we are all paying. So, and yes, we have these smart shuttle connections. I hear you, Brett. We're going to overlap with these station locations, but the reality is our residents are not going to take a shuttle bus to go over to Perimeter Park or Wake Tech or McCrimmon Airport and then get on another bus, they're gonna get in their car and drive because it's gonna be a heck of a lot faster. Same in Clayton. I mean, to think that somebody's gonna take a bus from Clayton for 2 hours plus, they're gonna get in their car. Although I know I know that part of the county has huge congestion compared to us, huge. And maybe that is quicker for them in the end, I don't know, but, I'm disappointed too. Again, I know you're the bearer, you're the messenger, but, I've got to stand up for our residents too, that are paying their money, they're being taxed now, and that's the money that's being used to fund this project, so.
I will defend Ben. He did not put together that resolution.
Yeah, we're not mad at that.
I did. I put it together. It is very customary for when a metropolitan planning organization is going to take action on a locally preferred alternative for some signal of endorsement for that to be made by the governing bodies of the impacted jurisdictions. It happens all throughout the country. It's a risk management technique. Well, I don't know if I want to call it a technique, but it is part of a risk management program. It's okay if you don't want to support it, because that also sends a message. I mean, supporting the resolution or adopting the resolution of endorsement sends a message, but also not doing that sends a message as well. So, that was me. I wrote it. I put it together, and it was my idea. It's very custom for that to happen, though. But whatever your message is will be conveyed to camp level, TCC, executive board, and we'll just take that forward.
Thank you, Brett. Appreciate that.
Could we go back to slide 7, please?
Slide 7.
Yes.
Way back.
That was it.
He's able to click.
Yeah, now
faster
the mouse
than he was
works.
during the presentation.
It likes going backwards and I don't like going forwards.
So, I was looking at slide 4. We don't have to go there. But I was looking at slide 4 and I was looking at the dots on the map. Actually, let's go to slide 4. I was looking at slide 4 and I was seeing where, all of these amenities were, the parks, recreation, the shopping, grocery, the medical facility, EMS. And I do see, kind of echoing Councilmember Scroggins-Johnson and Councilmember Johnson here. Looking at this map, I was thinking, man, it'd be really nice if we had the bus rapid transit along Davis Drive. And I thought of a route to go, we can go back to slide 7. But I'm just curious to see that this was not one of the options listed, to go from NC 54 to Morrisville Parkway to Davis to McCrimmon Parkway and then to NC 54.
I can look at.
Yeah, so right,
So
They're not entertaining that. They're not
Yeah,
entertaining that.
I do
They've
want to be
gotten
clear.
way beyond that.
What you see is what you get.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is a regional effort. There's a lot of other decisions and others that have contributed to this that have a vote, right? That contributed this. There's also technical data that has to be used to, determine, like, that points to here's your travel market, here's who you're serving and where you need to be. I totally get all of these concerns, but nothing can change with the alignment. This is a decision that was made, back in 2022.
Yeah.
And part of the reason why transportation projects may not get done or they can be problematic is because there's a lot of, well, we want this, or decisions are made, and then, oh no, we want to go back. Oh no, we want to go back. And that's a huge risk to projects, and I don't think it's a risk that the powers that be at the regional level are willing to entertain.
so what I'm curious about is what contributed to an alignment not from Davis Drive to NC 54 along McCrimmon Parkway. Why was that not considered?
So we have the, all of the different alignments that were, you didn't get that slide. We have all kinds of other slides here.
I originally gave Brett an 86 slide presentation. He didn't think y'all would quite want
No,
that many.
thank you,
So-
thank you.
But there, it looks like there is, yeah, that sort of alignment, at least there was a segment in here that did that.
Where it came into Morrisville and then it went along
They
McCrimmon
have
Parkway.
looked at
McCrimmon, yeah.
multiple options of it.
I mean, there's
Multiple.
all of these that were laid out. There was a phase one of all the potential segments, and then they were phased out from there. You can.
I'm gonna take a look at this. The little dashed yellow lines on here, were those options?
That's my understanding.
Is your
It's
understanding?
my
Okay.
understanding.
Okay. Yeah,
I was, yeah, but that was
Yes.
also
Yeah.
4 years ago.
Yes.
So Ben and I actually traded places.
Yeah.
I did the MIS and he
Yeah.
did the BR. I used to work at Campo. He has my old job at Campo. So
You guys did that.
Brett started the MIS. I started representing Morrisville on the MIS, and I went to Clayton representing Clayton on the MIS. And then Brett left Campo, and the MIS got finished up, and
Yeah.
so now we're here.
Virtuous circle.
Well, then we have history.
Let's
Okay,
get what we
continue with
need
this.
for our
Um,
residents.
so, it's a shame that we don't have it going up Davis Drive. I like hearing that there's gonna be a future, bus rapid transit, from Apex to, RTP along Davis Drive. That's gonna, take a while. But you did say that, you don't put bus rapid transit where you don't have fixed route service currently. You don't, add that on. So the question is, what would it take to get fixed route up Davis Drive?
it would need to be included in the 2035 Wake bus plan. That is underway right now. Actually, the first phase of public engagement is open right now until mid-September. In news and notes, actually, I put a whole blurb in there on it, so you can look for that when that goes out. I guess that goes out tomorrow, where there's a survey. You can go in and look at the different route concepts. But there is a fixed route concept on Davis Drive from High House up to the Regional Transit Center.
Is it kosher for us to share that survey with our
Yes.
residents?
Oh, absolutely.
As staff share?
Yeah, I mean, we're putting it in news and notes, or we put it in news and notes, we're putting it next week in Morrisville.
Mhm.
We're trying to get it out as well.
We have printed materials coming to you too.
Yeah, we want you to send it out to
Okay.
get as much participation as possible.
And I know that this is a lot tied to land use, and I'm sure that to get fixed route on Davis Drive sooner rather than later, it would have to have a higher density. So the oxymoron that I'm seeing here, or I'm thinking about, is for there to be a benefit to our residents, can it be stated that Davis Drive would have to increase significantly in density?
You mean to be right for BRT investment, for a BRT-like investment?
Both BRT and fixed route.
I mean,
Fixed route and then BRT.
my opinion is it is right for fixed route investment today. That's my opinion. It's been my opinion. I think the town of Cary has the same opinion. Maybe even the town of Apex. I don't know. But we are dealing in an environment where there's only so many resources, and it's a whole lot more resources than we had 10 years ago, right? With transit tax, we're bringing in $160 million a year, but there's still a lot of resources left to be able to program out a lot of improvements. But when you're dealing with a financially constrained environment, and Wake County right now particularly has a lot of big, expensive projects that they're actually trying to get done within the next few years. It eats away at that. But yeah, I think it's been ready for that.
What would be the effect of us saying no? Or we're saying, we don't endorse the resolution?
There's my opinion, and I can let Ben speak. I mean, I certainly think it would send a message, and there would be a desire to follow up on the why. But I also think there would be concern. But I also think following up on the why or why not for alternative 3, that question, I think the thinking is that question's probably already been answered, and there's a lot of good reasons for that. Mainly because, again, it's a regional investment rather than a local investment.
Right.
I don't know if you have anything to add.
The only thing I would say is, at the end of the day, the LPA designations is a job and duty of the MPO. And I think from the MPO standpoint, we have to look at the entirety of the, corridor and not just how one municipality feels. With that said, like Brett said, I think there would be a lot of concern. We would certainly be reaching out and, want to find out more, but, alternatives at this point are, if the LPA doesn't get adopted, then the project stops.
It'll get adopted. It won't matter. That's what is so sad to me in all of this. It won't matter.
Right, it's about the vote of Campo, it's not about
Yeah.
the vote of Morrisville.
I'll have an additional comment later, I think, but I want to hear everybody else's first.
So I'll be short and sweet because the vibe is you're not seeking my opinion or my input. I mean this in the nicest way possible. You're not, right?
Right.
Okay. I agree with everything Liz said. I wouldn't vote for it either, and I don't want it on the consent agenda. And yeah, looking forward to when you come back with good news about Davis Drive. It's always nice to see you though, Ben.
I will ask, can we put it on the agenda if it's gonna get voted down? I'd rather that be a thing than not, right? Like, give your opinion as a council on it, right? Like,
It should not be on consent.
Yeah.
but we can take it off
No, no.
consent, but.
Yeah, that's what I said. I don't want it on consent.
Mm-mm.
It should be on the agenda, yes.
So I would agree with that. I think also you could, you're discussing this in an open session tonight. This can, Campo, I assume, might want to watch this at some point and hear this feedback. So I think you could, either let it be on the agenda for further discussion, although I think you're having that discussion now. I think you could also direct staff not to bring it back for consideration for endorsement. You can do either way.
We are missing one council member that might want to express, so that's the reason we
That's
would
fair.
possibly put it on August 11th.
Just options.
I appreciate that, thank you.
I think, I was here first. So if we say no. Thank you. So if we say no, what happens to the plan staffs that you have on this page 23? Which says final station locations. So basically, it stops,
No, it'll go forward.
it'll go forward anyways.
That's the reality. That's the reality.
Okay.
I will say, unless, if Mayor Colley is your executive board member, brings up the concern and the rest of the executive board agrees that, and wants to support Morrisville's concerns, the executive board could decide not to adopt the LPA. So I would not say it's necessarily definitively going to be passed, but we have had it happen in the past on different things. I think, years ago with 540 and around Garner, the executive board stopped that in its tracks for a little while because Garner had serious concerns. So it's not a for sure thing if Morrisville representatives on the TCC and executive board bring up the concerns that the executive board will still, still vote in favor of it.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Ben.
I mean, so I agree with my colleagues' concerns, but even if we have a route through Davis Drive, we're still going to have two of the three largest neighborhoods in Morrisville, Providence Place and Kids Creek, are on Church Street. Whether the stops are on Davis Drive or Chapel Hill, it won't make much of a difference to those residents. They're still going to have to drive. Doesn't matter where the stops are. So, I mean, that's his comment. So, if they, even if we, I don't think that's going to happen, but even if there is an agreement to add Davis Drive to the route, we're still not going to satisfy majority of the residents.
Oh, we could grab this one. I just wanted to make a quick comment. I think one of the reasons why scenarios 1 and 2 were looked at closely originally was because of the TOD site. And when you look at other plans, that is designated as a transit hub and station. So just want to note the correlation there with those routes in the TOD and that future transit stop that's planned at the TOD site.
I will also say, there's a whole lot of different things that can happen if you say no, and how far it's taken. I do think one risk that you run is, Campo does take very seriously when the governing body of a municipality that's impacted by such an investment is not in favor of it. But I also think they may look at it as, are you not in favor of the investment, or do you just want it somewhere else? And is this, in between not having the investment and having the investment, would you still support it? I think that's what you might want to think about, because the money that's allocated for this could totally be taken and put somewhere else, right? On other corridors that are part of that bigger alignment all the way from RTP to Clayton. So one of the risks that you could run is you just don't get anything, anywhere. So I would be careful with that.
And thank you, that's where I was going, that at least we have
Yeah.
something right now, so.
Is it my turn?
Actually, let me just add one more comment that I lived in Philadelphia when I went to college, and I used to take bus and subway and train. And even in cities like Philadelphia, I had to walk or drive. I didn't have cars, so I had to walk a mile to get to the bus stop. So this is not a unique problem to just us, right? The public transportation is not going to be able to serve every resident. That's it.
If I can, real quick, just to echo Michelle's comment, and, again, we're looking back in time to 2021, 2022, 2023, but that was a big reason why the alternatives 1 and 2 and alternative 2 was chosen, was because of the TOD planning that Morrisville had. Morrisville's been planning for that TOD since 2010, 2008. So, that was a big reason why. I do believe that Michelle's right, that that's probably one of the big reasons why that alternative 3 did get screened out, is that it did not service this large TOD. And for a long time, the thought, when we had commuter rail, there was going to be a large commuter rail parking lot there, and it was going to have a lot of synergy. The commuter rail may not be here now, but there's still opportunities to really have some substantial TOD development if you can say that you have BRT service there. So just something to think about.
I also think if you go back to when we talked about the alternative transit study, and I talked about the circuitousness of certain routing and how you lose ridership because it's no longer competitive. There's no, the travel time takes too long. That's also, if I'm remembering back to the MIS, that was also a concern with that Davis Drive alignment, because you're going, the travel market is really between RTP and Cary or RTP and Raleigh, and you're kind of going way out here and then up here, a little bit circuitous, particularly for something that's a BRT investment that's supposed to have really, really sharp directness of travel. Otherwise, you're defeating the purpose of BRT in some regards. Yes. So that's part of it too.
Go up 54. That would be bigger, a better express.
So, and that's a great caveat or segue, because 54 is 2 lanes, and that's not an express in any case.
It's
So-
already, part of it's already 2 lanes.
Exactly.
This
So
alternative
we're-
already does 2 lanes on 54.
Right, so we're kind of skipping that chunk in the middle to essentially create the frequency and the speed that brings you from one place to the other. So if you look at it, going over to Evans and up McCrimmon, it's kind of like just the mirror of Davis. But McCrimmon Extension, what we paid for, is actually got a bus lane there now. It's rare that there's so much traffic that you wouldn't have a dedicated bus lane there. Davis will never be that case until we actually have 6 lanes on Davis. So the future, when those 2 bus lanes are there, then that's the correct time to do that, because this is a point to point. This is really Raleigh to Cary to RTP. This isn't designed necessarily to be a local for our residents. This is designed to take those other cars off our roads. So that is the benefit, because we were around when Mark Stolman was our representative to the Wake County Transit Plan. And the big thing about that plan is that even if people aren't on the buses, they benefit, because some people are on the buses. So we're taking the cars off the roads. So the main benefit for us is getting those non-Morrisville residents and commuters off our roads. So I understand everyone's opinion, actually, that this doesn't really benefit us directly. And it might not benefit me, but it does benefit me insofar as I can get to where I want to go in Morrisville in a car faster, because I don't have everyone else clogging our roads, which are everyone's roads. So in that way, this is a regional solution, and it's not ideal in some ways, but the fact that we built McCrimmon Extension makes that the BRT's dream, because there are essentially dedicated bus lanes, so people get through there faster. If they're going to go up 54, that's really slow. Davis, probably nearly as slow, because it at least has 2 lanes, so we could do something there, maybe some jump lanes. But I just want to say that I hear everything you said, but looking at the regional lens, this will help us. And it is our tax dollars. The Wake County Transit Plan, this is our money, and it helps, but just not as directly as we would all like. So I will vote whichever way y'all want. I think writing a letter would be good, whatever you want. I think we should definitely think about writing a letter about the Davis Drive fixed route, because that's a shorter term solution that helps us and gets us that BRT later. But you guys all make great points, and I just want to share the perspective from long-term regional planning. From even before when I was on the Campo board. I think Michelle Stiegel, our planning director.
Thank you. I mean, it sounds like we're bringing this back. It'll likely be voted down. But I did want to encourage the council to think, we've been talking about this as being a regional system. It's not necessarily designed for commuters, but they will be a large user of this type of system. So it's also designed around large employment centers. And McCrimmon is going to be a large employment center for Morrisville. So by coming down McCrimmon, you're going to be hitting a lot of the new industries that are being constructed in that area, which will provide more opportunities for people that live in other communities to commute and transfer in and get to those jobs quickly. And then again, right after that, you're hitting the TOD before you head up and make a turn and start heading towards RTP. So just wanted to keep that commuter component in mind as well, given that this is more of a regional system. Thank you.
I just want one comment that, if you really think about the big city transit system, we are a suburb of Raleigh. And if you go to any metropolitan city, and suburban areas, probably people travel at least as much as we would end up traveling if we voted yes for this. So for that reason, I'll probably vote yes.
Didn't quite understand. Can you tell me the driver?
So if you compare this transit plan to any metropolitan cities transit system, suburban areas of big cities, they have similar issue. People living in suburbs don't have direct access to buses and the transportation centers. They have to drive, right? And that's the point I make.
Oh, I was at the end, I was gonna mention a ladder, the ladder about the Davis Drive fixed route and ultimate condition of BRT. If I should do something with that, but there's more comments to be made, so.
Yes. I think one of the downsides of Davis Drive fixed route, especially if it's going RTP to Apex, is that it wouldn't go to Raleigh. Don't know necessarily what you do about that. Be nice if it did. But I like the idea of writing a letter. I also wanted to echo Mayor TJ's comment about less people on the road, as well as the benefit to not only some current residents that are living along this route, but also the future residents that we could get, with the other multifamily that is developing in that area. And I think it makes echoing Mayor TJ's comment even louder. I'll wrap up with, so I'm a strong yes. I'm a strong yes just because I think we need it, and I know it's not ideal for us, 100% ideal for us, but I think that's us voting on everything where there's not agreement, right? But I think it's a good regional thing, and I was trying to think of an analogy for what I'm about to say. I've not come up with a good one, but I think of this as a land use issue. We have land use that is a little bit hard to manage. Some of that certainly is from development that has happened to the town, but also maybe some decisions that have been made in the past. And so I feel that kind of like a child sticking their finger on a cactus or something, similar to that. It's like, ow. It's like, well, don't do that. Like I said, it wasn't a good analogy. But are there land use decisions that we're making in Morrisville that have been in the past that doesn't make the Davis Drive feasible, that wouldn't have made the Davis Drive, that doesn't make the Davis Drive feasible now? Were there land use decisions that could have been made along the way, such as, what I know that most residents don't like apartments and density and whatnot, but if you had that along Davis Drive, would we have the fixed route serving along that? And that's one of the downsides, or that's the trade-off, right? If you want to have this type of transportation, this type of mobility, then having some of that additional density in that area, which ideally came with commercial activity as well. So that's kind of the message of sending the no vote, I feel, is it's like, no, we don't like it. It's like, okay, well, this is how you've built Morrisville, and so this is the only option that makes sense for Morrisville. That's my thinking at the moment.
So is it accurate that if we had a higher density on Davis Drive, we would have had better chances of getting that route?
So maybe, yes, because whenever the bus planning started after the Wake Transit Plan was adopted, the first thing that we jumped to was a market analysis of where do we have a need here, what travel markets are out there that need to be served. So it's possible, yes. And back then, Davis Drive has exploded since then. I mean, it really has. If you go 10 years ago, Davis Drive looks very different now. So yeah, I mean, based on market analysis back then, that could have contributed to that. And maybe having higher density land uses, which would be higher trip generating origins and destinations would have changed that. But there's another factor out there which has been effective for the past several years, which is Raleigh first. Okay, and I'm not complaining. That's every major city that has a large transit system or a transit network, the real need is in the higher density areas in the core of the central city. Okay, so Raleigh first was a big part of coming out of the Wake Transit planning with bus planning and allocating resources. But Raleigh's they're in really good shape now in terms of being. I know there's just more things that they need to do, but they're pretty built out with their fixed route transit system, and it's doing really, really well. And so now it's kind of like, well, what else is there out in the suburban areas that is ripe for this type of investment? So I think some of it's been Raleigh first, and some of it's just been the market data has not registered yet, because 10 years ago when bus planning first started from the Wake Transit Plan, it was very different. But now we know that it is. And one of the arguments that I've made, Ben's heard it, with the Wake bus plan is there's only one route, and well, it's only just come back on NC 55 that serves a north-south pattern in western Wake County, which is Route 311, and it's oriented to NC 55 because it's more of an express type of service. It's a go triangle route. And the fact that Davis Drive doesn't have anything, but NC 55 does, kills me. It really does. It kills me. It's like, what? But part of that's because Davis Drive is slower. I mean, it comes down to actually run cutting for the service with buses. It's slower, so it takes more buses, which takes more investment, and it's more expensive to run. NC 55 is a lot faster, and you can spread out the access points more on NC 55. So that's a little bit of.
But the comparison to like Davis Drive route versus the current route, does this route have higher density than Davis Drive?
I'm sorry.
The current proposed route, does it have higher density than Davis Drive?
No.
It doesn't. So that's why I asked the question that if we had higher density in Davis Drive, would it make a difference? Because it looks like it's
not for the BRT. Probably not.
For BRT, it's not.
Not for the BRT.
Could you suggest that discussions of what might or might not make a difference on Davis Drive, we're really wandering from the point. I really want to just get us back on task, which is the current proposal and whether or not we support it. And can I suggest that we table other discussions for other meetings when they're more relevant?
I mean, we're discussing, so I'm just adding my comment. Yes, everybody wants to get done early. I actually have to go to work after this, so we can stop. Thank you.
So I just have but to that point, it's the density of commercial development that is ideal for why this loops the way it does. So it does, to Michelle's point, to everyone's point, the route serves as a destination, but it still is not benefiting our residents. So I am still a hard no in this resolution if we're going to vote on a resolution. That's why I brought up the option. I would much prefer not to vote on a resolution. I would much prefer to put our thoughts in a letter and send a letter explaining how we feel, and but that's me. And then just one thing, and I hear this idea that it will take cars off the road. I've used that argument before myself, but I'm looking at your slide 25, where we talk about the time it's going to take to get from one location to another. And again, I'm a pragmatic. I like to be pragmatic. I'm a realist. The reality is, it is still going to be faster to drive your car to get where you want to go. Only those that, like Harrison, that are truly invested are going to take more than an hour to take a bus, or those that don't have a vehicle are going to take a bus for an hour. Everyone else is going to get in their car. So, and again, I would prefer that we send a letter, quite frankly, with our thoughts, but that, again, is only me.
That's me too.
I like the letter idea.
I'm in favor of the letter and voting yes.
So let me ask this.
Can I
In-
just say one thing?
Oh, sorry.
We could have staff take a look back at our discussions in 2021 and 22, because we looked at these routes all together. And I think we ended up with the McCrimmon, we chose it as a group. So it's kind of the analogy I would use is there's a lot of people that don't like Airport Boulevard now, but we're going forward with it for lots of different reasons. This is similar in that way. We made decisions back then, as you mentioned, if you change routes, you lose funding, you lose credibility as a planning body. So I think that would help us to sort of understand that we as a group back then did that. If we did, I think we did, but I'd love for staff to sort of dig in on that a little bit. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, one of the biggest risks with this project is the LPA could have been adopted right after the MIS, but it wasn't. And so a certain amount of time since 2022 has gone by, councils turnover, conditions change. We find out more about the commuter rail not going to move forward, and how essential that might be for co-location with the BRT. And this is what can happen, right? Like opinions change on alignment or where investment should be. So, yeah, I mean, I would have preferred for the LPA to have been done in 2022 if that was the signal from council at the time, because then that would have been a better risk management strategy, I think, regionally, to get local governments on board, if they were on board then. But I wanted to ask for the resolution. So there is no language in this resolution about anything that has to do with other alignments and opinions on other alignments. That could be added. So here's where I'm really going with this. Would you adopt the resolution if there was language added to it that expressed this dissatisfaction for the alignment that is being considered over the other one, the Davis Drive one, but it said something to the effect of understanding the regional market and purpose and need for this project being on the alignment that it is, fine, we endorse that. Some of it is like, well, what are you communicating in the language of the resolution that could potentially be affixed? Or if you'd rather go with a letter, that's fine too. I'm just saying resolutions can say whatever you want them to say. But I'm trying to still and I want, council should do what the council feels is best. But I'm sort of trying to point you in the direction of, are you willing to have this or nothing at all? Like if it was a choice between this or nothing at all, what would your choice be?
My turn? You can go, that's fine.
So I think we want to be clear. First, Ben, is there any timeline on this letter of endorsement?
Yeah, so if you want it to be considered before the vote, the Campo Executive Board will be voting on September, I think it's 16th.
Okay, so we've got a little time if we need to. So I also want to clarify, Mayor, you're asking for some summary information from, 5 and 6 years ago. Do you want that before a decision is made, or do you want that just as information for council?
I guess information for council before we vote or something. I'm not sure. I think it might help inform people about why it was then. There are some differences now, but I'm just going with the analogy of Airport Boulevard.
Well, I think I understand what you're saying about, what was the scenario since I was on the council in 2022. But it's also relevant that certain things have changed since 2022. Like, we lost the rail stop. The delay of McCrimmon flyover. I mean, there's just, a few big milestone things that have happened to the ecosystem of the Morrisville transit, road projects and so forth. So it'd be great to have the 2022, but also I'd like to know what has happened majorly to maybe influence our current situation.
Because as was mentioned, we do have some time now till September, so I'm not sure how much we want to keep digging in on this to Councilmember Body's, Mayor Pro Tem Body's point.
Well, I don't think it's a good idea. So August 11th is just not going to work.
No, that's why I was asking about the timeline and the others. So I think because, and I'll sidestep a little bit in terms of the resolution. I think the resolution, if you adopt it to endorse, you're endorsing. I mean, you can have other language in it, but you're still endorsing the plan. So I think there needs to be a clear decision around whether that's what you intend to do or not. And you could still send a letter that could be separate from that, or could be in lieu of a resolution that expressed what some of your concerns, and that might be a letter that includes some of that background data of what you previously expressed and what your concerns are with the decision that's been made now about the selected route. So I think it's probably one or the other would, I think, be my suggestion. So what I further suggest we do is let us circle back on this. And again, to Councilmember Scarlett Johnson's point, we have a council member that's not here. So we can certainly communicate with him. I think if we could come back the 25th, if there's time, I need to look at the rolling calendar. We can make time, I think, to bring this back. And then worst case, there's still a meeting after that if we needed to squeeze it in before the Campo vote. Is that reasonable?
Head nods? And then
Yes, okay, I have one more, just to be perfectly clear. Again, this is me. I want to send a message, and that's what's important to me. This resolution, the most important part is the now therefore be it resolved. The rest of it is, it's not fluff. The rest of it's very important. The gist of any resolution, and the first thing I look at every resolution is that last paragraph. That's what we're going to do and act on. And it says endorses, and that is not the message I want to send. Knowing full well that this is a regional plan and there's lots of things at play, that is not lost on me. For me, I want to send a message that Morrisville's here. We have a population that's being taxed now and is not seeing a benefit. So that's what's important to me. In a letter, however we do that, that would be fine with me. But anyhow, and I do not need the history. It doesn't matter what happened 5 years ago, 6 years ago. What matters is today. So you don't need to go back, for me, you don't need to go back and do all that work, because I'm not going to change my mind and my position. But that's just to be perfectly clear.
I think that the reason that the letter is preferable to me than a resolution, whether we voted up or down, is because we had the opportunity to provide exactly that context. We understand that this is a regional project. We understand that there were times in the past when we might have supported such a thing. Like, I don't really need you to go back and find that out. I remember the discussions back when we thought we were getting light rail. Who cared where the buses went, you know? But that's why I would prefer a letter, is because we can lay out exactly what we are in support of, which I believe we're united in support, that we'd rather have this than nothing. But we have a responsibility to our residents too. And everyone that this is benefiting is coming through Morrisville. They don't live here. Morrisville people, to get onto McCrimmon Extension, are still gonna have to get in their cars or on their bikes.
You gentlemen have what you need?
I think so. Well, Brandon doesn't think so.
Okay.
So I would like to know if there's consensus or not before I task staff with bringing back a lot of 5- and 6-year-old information, if there's consensus around needing that or not. Respectfully, I don't want to ask them to do that if there's not a consensus around needing that.
I don't need it, but it would just highlights of maybe some things that have happened in the last 5 years, like the delays of the road projects or something like that. I mean, you don't have to. What has been the transit milestones, up and down, maybe the top 5 impacts or something?
So a suggestion, if we're going to draft a letter, I think that's information we could include in a letter. Again, I think some of the highlights, so if you're okay with that approach, let us start working on, and I say us, I mean them, start drafting a letter that will address what your concerns are, and we can hit some of the highlights of one of your concerns is that things have changed, and this may not align with what you would like to see.
So I would like that history because I'm not familiar with it, most of the council is, so whatever information we can provide.
I think I'm clear on what you're looking for here, so. But it won't be on your August 11th agenda, so maybe the 25th. Oh, sorry, Councilmember.
Harrison, did you have a thought? Sorry, Councilmember Kensling, excuse me.
Yes. So I was not here 5 years ago. So the conversation that we're having now is on the Wake BRT. I have the benefit of, it's maybe not a benefit, it's neutral maybe, but coming in is like, oh, yeah, you got TOD, you got McCrimmon, of course the BRT is going to go that way. But it was not that was not what was being discussed when that was being developed. It was the light rail, the commuter rail, these road projects that are coming in. I would like to have a bit more information to Councilmember Scroggins Johnson points of, because Wake BRT was not discussed at that time, correct?
I think it was.
BRT's been on.
We chose the alternative then.
What
BRT.
was
It was
This
very
alternative.
minimal.
okay. Okay. So if there was a BRT option that was discussed at that time, it would have likely have been a different alternative, let's say, or emphasize a different alternative, might have influenced the land use plan, 2019 land use plan in a different way.
Had we known that the light rail,
Mhm.
with the, sorry,
Commuter
commuter rail.
rail station is still in the
Yeah.
plans.
The-
It's still in the plans.
Yeah. Had we known then that that was not coming, I think that the discussion would have gone differently. That's why I'm saying that I'm just not sure. There was a lot of conversation. The situation was very different from a transit perspective. So, I just am not sure that the additional context would elucidate this situation that much. It's because it's very different.
I feel though it is important to include in our letter
Agree.
to say, you know, this is not what we were intending when we first, when we, you know, developed this land use. I think that's kind of the critical thing here.
Kind of the journey.
Mhm. I'm
So
so
now you have more than you need.
No, I'm done. I mean, I'm still, if you have more to say, I'm happy to take it. But I think I'm picking up what you're putting down.
I would like more detail on that, but that doesn't have to come before this letter is written on kind of what was desired at that time, and then some of those changes that have been made.
I'd be happy to talk to you about my perspective and some of my thinking, and then, you know, you can ask follow-up questions of staff based on that. And I'm sure everybody who was on council is open to that as well.
And if not, Liz has all the minutes in her basement, so.
I do have all the minutes. I got lots of plots. Treasure trove down there.
I would get out when nobody has to do anything.
All right, we're good. You're good to go, man. Go home.
Very nice.
Welcome.
Good presentation. Don't worry about sending us all 86 slides. This was just about right. Appreciate that. Okay. Anything for the good of the order before we go into closed session? Well, we're going to go into a break first.
Yes.
Let's go into closed session for the break.
Well, which is the direction? Which way we do it first? Closed session first, and then we take break. That's right. Now I remember. I'd entertain a motion to enter closed session for two different items: one property acquisition contract, and the other for personnel.
I make a motion that we go into closed session pursuant to NCGS 143-318-11A5 and A6 to discuss the acquisition of real property and a personnel matter.
Second.
I have a motion from
Speaker Johnson.
Mayor Pro Tem Rabadi, and apparently Councilmember Scroggins Johnson is claiming the second, so I'll give it to her. All those in favor of entering closed session, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that carries unanimously 6-0. We are now in closed session. Please clear the room of unnecessary, not needed personnel, and we're going to take 15. Is that good for people? 15-minute break, so please come.
10?
Okay. Come back at 8:43. Split the difference. Thank you very much. I mean, 8:53. 8:53. Thank you. Math.